I'm here to talk about a topic that's very close to my heart. I am an HR practitioner, and now I'm an entrepreneur, still very much an HR practitioner. My company is an HR services firm. So let me talk about the innovation economy. In 1942, this term was coined by an economist named Joseph Schumpeter. And he argues that it's innovation which fuels economic growth. The prevailing theory at that time was that it's capital in labor. He who has the largest labor force, the largest amount of capital wins. But 50, 60 years after, he's being proven right. We are now very much in the innovation economy, wherein you have to innovate, and I think we've seen this in some placards. You innovate or you die. And I think that is very true. If you talk to boardrooms, if you talk to company boards, company execoms, mancoms, innovation is becoming something that's really centrally talked about. If you don't innovate, you die. If we look at the top 2014 top 10 innovative companies from the Boston Consulting Group, we would see that they number some of the most successful firms, financially successful firms as well. So we have there the usual suspects: Amazon, Google, Samsung, Apple. Tesla's very interesting, right? They're innovating in industries which innovation isn't really that common. But they're now creating electric cars, venturing into electric batteries. Very exciting. Now, we also see companies like, or maybe you don't see, before there used to be a Kodak store like in every corner, and we would run there to develop film. Now there's like one in like one big mall is one, or you'd be lucky if you find it, if you can find it. So I think we know how this huge, seemingly indestructible company has fallen. But what's interesting is, did you know that in 1975, they actually, the creator, the inventor of the digital camera was actually a Kodak engineer. So they actually, what ultimately destroyed them was something in their midst. But as an organization, they failed to cultivate that seed into something that could have. They were so caught up. Film will never be replaced. We will always rule the roost. And what happened in very, very quick fashion, as the digital or gadgets became more and more advanced, we don't even need a camera now. The phones, the cameras on our phones have very high quality already. This was a recent example. Friendster happened early 2000s, in the same decade. What we are seeing now is very quickly the company life cycle goes by very, very fast. You hit success, and normally when you hit success, you're there for a while, a few decades, and then maybe you go down. But now it's becoming much faster. What killed them, if you think about it, if you remember, was the news feed of Facebook. But in the survey, most of us are not millennials, so I'm guessing most of us are the Gen Xers, boomers. So you guys used Friendster, whether you admit it or not. There wasn't any news feed, right? It was just all profiles, and we would stalk like, this girl's cute, or etc. We would use it for that. But Facebook came in, they did the feed, and then that's it. That became more interesting. We now go to the Facebook pages and look at the feed, mostly, right? We don't look at our own profiles. It's the feed, how the other people's feed, etc. Blockbuster movies, again, something very common. It reached here. I remember going to the Katipunan store, and then I would rent like those really big, what do you call those things? The laser disc, that's right, the laser disc. 2-3 years only, right? You knew it wasn't going to be that. The laser disc. And in previous years, I think thinking of this, so apologies if anyone is from the Manila Bulletin, but I remember going home And when I would enter the room, I would just smell this scent of print. Because the Manila Bulletin that time was how thick? 80s? How thick was the Manila Bulletin? This thick. The Sunday edition of Manila Bulletin, you could hit someone over the head with it and they would fall unconscious. It would be super thick, filled with classifieds. That's printed, that's money. And they were slowly disrupted. Soon they had the classifieds, all classifieds. I forgot the name, and soon everything became digital. And now Manila Bulletin is thin. You get it when you buy a hamburger in McDonald's. So how are the mind fallen? So this is something very close to my heart. I did mention I was a practitioner and an entrepreneur. And I wanted to tell you my own innovation story. So in 2005, in the introduction, it was mentioned that I founded a firm called Storm. It's a flexible benefits firm. It started out in 2006. We noticed that there were two other competitors during that time in the FlexBen arena, Towers Watson and Mercer. Companies we're very familiar with. And when accidentally found out, they were billing companies like 3-5 million. And I found out because I accepted a FlexBen, personal FlexBen gig for 100,000 pesos. And then when I got there, hey, today everything you have on benefits. And she showed me even the proposals of the previous firm, and I jumped out of my seat. Oh my gosh, 3 to 5 million! And that was when I started to think of business. And the first person I approached was a friend of mine who was in tech. Because I figured this thing would run on tech very, very well. And that was the first innovation we did. We created a flexible benefits application that was online. It was on the cloud. Back when the term cloud wasn't even used. So, and then of course we priced at a much lower level, and we priced per month rather than a singular installation. So that was how we innovated, and we started getting clients. But over the years, what happened? Competition developed similar technologies. Competition lowered their prices to similar levels. And during the 2010 to 11, we were commoditized. We had a product which didn't really distinguish itself from competition, and we had to go into a room and then talk about how will we. So at this time, how did we do, and how did most of the market do FlexBen? We were doing it reimbursement based. So FlexBen, you would convert your current benefits into currency, and then you would use it. So back then, it was a reimbursement sort of mechanism. So you would go out, get a receipt, but get a receipt and then reimburse it through payroll. It was very admin heavy, because there was a lot of paperwork. It cost a lot. So if you were a 500-man firm, back then it would have cost me, let's say, around 50 to 100,000 per month, because we would check all the receipts. It was prone to fraud. What did we think of doing? We thought, hey, maybe we could create a platform, a marketplace filled with benefits. And it's the only place where they can buy benefits from. So that's another innovation. It would limit the things they would buy from, because they can't buy now from anywhere. They would have to buy from the store. But the important thing that happened there was our revenue model shifted from a monthly fee from HR. So HR would have to cough up 50, 100,000 bucks to us. We would now rely on revenue on the suppliers. Because we're able now to negotiate items in bulk. I could put items there, trips or gadgets or extra insurance, etc., and get revenue from the margin. That meant that I could give the service for free. So that was the idea. We still had to execute. And this was the big thing. When we talk about innovation, so these were things I was talking about with my executive committee. It had to translate into innovation across the entire organization for that to happen. So the innovation analogy you see is typically like this, right? This is what I put in the cover slide. So one person innovating, one light in one organization. If you view this from a corporate perspective, it cannot be this way. It needs to be something like this. Everyone should innovate. And that was what we did. So from a software as service, we suddenly had to think about logistics. We suddenly had to think about how do you sell in a marketplace environment? What would be the economics? And in 6 months, we were able to execute that pivot and then run it. So of course, there were so many mistakes that happened, but we learned very, very fast. So that should be how you would think of innovation. And your role is this guy. That guy needs to be you. So a bank which has existed for how many decades, you now have to innovate. Or else someone with very quick technology, a person would be more comfortable in transacting with, if they are able to deliver that, I don't know what it looks like, then that would be very difficult. So that has to be your role. You have to be an innovation evangelist across your company, across the different levels in your company. That has to be your role. Excuse me. And it's all about really building a culture. How do you build an innovative culture? And that's very difficult. We all know as HR practitioners, there is no blueprint to this. It doesn't happen overnight. You cannot change it. You cannot force it rather. Everyone has to be in creating culture. It's not some policy. And this is where your mission, your vision, your values, your leadership, how you use it. But let me give you 7 quick tips on trying to create a culture that's these are of varied levels. Some are very practical, some are more strategic in nature, some are insights. Okay? Ready? First, make learning a company value. So of course, this is something, Peter, cliche. But let me put it in these terms. So nowadays, you have to be agile. Like that move we did in 2012 when we transformed into a platform. It would not have happened if our current people stuck to their ways and didn't learn how to manage another set of skills and master another set of competencies, then our pivot would not have happened. So you can see here now innovation, how it flows from top management down to the people in rank and file. It has to translate to that. Learning. So when you recruit, don't go after specific skills. Go for people who learn fast. And try to look at your process. Are you hiring for learning? Are you hiring people who love learning and who love to develop, who've been, a favorite question of mine is, when was the last time you learned something very fast in life? It's such a simple question, but very, very powerful. When did you learn a new skill? Very interesting. So make it a value. So value means you measure things by, right? It's just not something on the wall that you paste. It has to be something that's alive. Starts from you. Reward risk-taking. So look at what you incent, right? So again, this is something very, 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 we've heard of this in HR. What is the incentive program? Do you encourage risks? That means, do you encourage mistakes? In startup parlance, and you've heard this, I'm sure, it's fail fast. Fail fast. It's just failing, what's the other term? Fail forward. Of course, the point is not to fail, but to iterate very fast. Try things out and see what happens, and then learn. Reward risk-taking. I put Google Wave here. How many of you remember Google Wave? It had a huge press about it, and then they were building up to it, and this would transform the way we would communicate, Google was saying. And they launched it. And it was technology-wise marvelous. The team was great, but it flopped. But it's very interesting because Google rewarded those guys. Not as much as they would have gotten if it were a success, but they still got an incentive for trying and for risking that much. So very interesting. How do you translate this now into your own firms? You cannot make a mistake and it's okay. I mean, if I risk great, will I get fired if it doesn't pan out? So you have to take a look at you have to ask your employees. A lot of companies I see still has that like the protect your ass sort of mentality. That's so counter to an innovation culture. You have to be accountable for your mistakes, and you have to feel as if those mistakes are being done in a safe way. It's very. You have to reward this. If not, that's the bedrock of innovation. If it doesn't happen, then there's no innovation here. A lot of us actually, if I remember right, in working with a lot of firms, a lot of us have innovation as a core value. Does it translate down your policies, down your culture? You have to have a culture of experiment. How will you decide if you use the red button or the blue button on an online store? Don't follow what the manager says. Follow what the data says. In one company, do the blue button. In the other company, do the red. See what your data says. That's startup culture. That's startup innovation. They really rely on data to decide, not personality. And I say this a lot to my employees, guys, I'm gonna make freaking a ton of mistakes. And then I don't wanna be the smartest person in the room. I want our data to make our decisions. But for that to happen, there needs to be a culture where, hey, let's try that out. Brian was telling me earlier that you guys talked about ROWE, results-only work environment. We tried it out a couple of months ago. Profile pictures, because they want people to be more active in supporting the program. But that sort of thing, is that sort of culture alive in you? Experiment, trying things out, seeing what works. Beware of myopia. What's myopia? And this is, I think, something that's very crucial because we're in HR. We are aware we keep the standards, we have policies, we manage policies and procedures. So from that standpoint, a lot of people actually look at us and think we're the least innovative. Because we're the ones, you have to go to HR and force them to make a policy change. We're the lead people. But you have to be, myopia is where you have a similar viewpoint, right? And it's very dangerous in this innovation economy. Because if you have people in the room thinking of one way to do it, then you're going to get disrupted. So, especially in HR, so many people ask me, Peter, what's the best practice? We're so caught up in the best practice, right? What's the best practice? And you want to try it out. Every program works differently with every firm. That's just the way it is. So you have to see for yourself and experiment and try to see if that works. But if you do what another company is doing, then it's simple-minded. There's a crucial function that we need to take a look at in terms of myopia is recruitment. Would you hire this guy? This guy that didn't use deodorant, walked around in the office barefoot, berated everyone he came into contact with because he felt superior to them. Who's this guy? That's Steve Jobs. And it's a funny proposition, right? If Steve Jobs went to you and then applied to your firm looking like that, would you accept the person? Would you have rejected Steve Jobs because of the rules in your recruitment processes and the biases that are there? There are more and more companies now who have this position called the Chief Diversity Officer. And it's not only for keeping your company like what do you call that? An equal opportunity employer. It's also to combat this, to get people in the room with different mindsets. Otherwise, you are in risk of myopia. Something to remember. Democratize innovation. So in the office, we use Yammer. Very, very powerful. It's free. So of course, you have to talk to your IT guys to see if it will work in your firm. But it's like Facebook inside your own firm. And if you have an idea, hey guys, what do you think of this? Everyone's equal. Everyone can just chime in. So very interesting. There are a lot more actually that you can check out. But we've used Yammer with a lot of success. So you might want to take a look at that. It also follows in a lot of ways. For example, informality versus formality. How many are more creative in a more formal environment? Raise your hand. People are typically more creative in an informal environment. Right? So I don't look like this in the office. I have a t-shirt. Our office looks like this. It's an open environment and we would have quiet rooms. And we would sit. So our execom, we do not have any offices. We're just in one room. So you can use, and we penalize people who call us sir. Because we think that, hey, so of course, this runs counter, sometimes it runs counter to the Filipino value of respect. You have to call each other sir. But when we create that hierarchy, it makes challenging you more difficult because you're sir. I don't want that. I want you to talk to me as Peter. If I'm 60, I want you to call me as Peter. And if I make a mistake, I want you to tell me to my face. Because the moment you hide these things, oh no, si sir might get offended if I tell this what's happening in my department. No, I want you to be open because it's crucial. I need to know. If there are problems, we need to know. If there's an idea you have, I don't want you to be intimidated by my room, by my sir being called sir. So we eliminate a lot of those hierarchies. So there's a free flow of ideas. Small product teams work. So you might just want to try this. Excuse me. Very recently, we had an idea that we wanted to try. So what we did was we handpicked different people from different departments. And then just put them in one room. There are 4 or 5 of them. One programmer, one product person, one quality assurance tester, etc. And they made really amazing things. And I was really, oh my gosh, that's incredible what you guys accomplished. So it's something to try out. Because small teams, because they're very empowered, because they're small, each person knows their role, like these guys. If you remember those who watched, and know you watched. They have their different skill sets, right? And they would feel, and when encountering a scenario, they would go to one person because we need this guy. So the person feels very, very empowered and needed. I think I have to wrap up. And lastly, you have to be. You cannot evangelize and talk about innovation in your firm if you yourself don't know what it takes to be innovative or what innovation is. So one suggestion, read up. And here are some very practical books. Best innovation book I've read in a while. 0 to 1 by the super venture capitalist Peter Thiel, who invested in Google, Facebook, continues to invest very, very successfully over the last decade or two. An amazing book if you want to learn more about it. 0 to 1 means instead of copying, you create something from 0 to 1. So it's also a short read. It's not so long. I think in a day you can finish it. For HR people in particular, another amazing book by the VP of HR Google. And you might think, Google might not be applicable. So many things are applicable. And what I like about Google is that they're very, very data-centric. So they do this design, even in their people practices. So they do experiments within, and they try to find out which practice works. And it's divided neatly into the traditional HR functions. It's a chapter on recruitment, a chapter on performance management. So very, very interesting. I think it's the best HR book to come out the last week. And lastly, especially for those in bigger firms, The Innovator's Dilemma. This is a classic innovation book. Why new technologies cause great firms to fail. It highlights the innovation challenges when you're already a rule the roost and you're a big firm. So very, very interesting reading. It's not as quick reading as the other two books, but if you want to know more about innovation, that's interesting. And lastly, there are a lot of startup events that are happening. There's Startup Weekend, Kickstart, and Idea Space have a lot of events. Join one, so you can see the difference. There is a difference. One of the things which we see when people from corporations join us is they're shocked by the level of quick execution. There's very little hierarchies, so things get done very fast. It's just different. So to have a taste of how that is, especially Startup Weekend is very, very interesting because you get a chance to join the startup and you get to simulate that experience. You get to build things in a weekend and then see what happens. Very, very interesting. So with that, let me just highlight the crucial role. And it's really sort of like something like half glass full, or half empty, right? It's something that you can be scared about. Oh no, it is scary, right? You can be disrupted. But it's also a huge opportunity for companies who are willing really to grab it. You, as HR practitioners, as leaders in your firm, have a responsibility to try to drive innovation throughout your firm. Be an innovation evangelist. So my invitation, grab it. See what happens, embrace it. Because I don't think we're going back to the industrial age. Things are just going to go actually faster than it is now. With that, thank you so much.